Should Liga MX and MLS merge to make one North American Super League? Now, this has been something that's been proposed for several years now. It's got a lot of people upset. A lot of people agree or disagree if this would be a good move for both leagues and soccer in general in North America. So, today we're going to talk about the pros of this happening and the cons of this happening. And then I'll tell you what I think if this should or shouldn't happen. And obviously, would love to know what you guys think. But before we get into that, make sure you guys like this video down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are 200 subscribers away from 12,000, getting closer and closer. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of our videos. So let's get into this. Let's talk about the pros of why this would be a good idea for both of these leagues to merge and be one super league in North America. Okay, so the first thing, it'd be one of the biggest leagues in the world overnight. Yes, some people are going to say, Will, you're crazy. It would not be the biggest league overnight. It wouldn't even be close. I disagree. I think if you took the best clubs from Liga MX and you took the best clubs from MLS overnight and put them into one league, of course it would be. We would have the combined markets of Mexico, the United States, and Canada, which would be an absolute powerhouse. And I think that it would make a very, very strong, maybe even top five league in the world overnight. I truly believe that, especially top to bottom. Get out of here. Not even close. It would definitely be top five. The massive population footprint. Think about all the people that would be involved with this league. It'd be the biggest league as far as the top leagues in the world, population wise, supported. It'd have over what 500 million people if you combine all three countries together supporting this league. I mean, it would be insane. And obviously, if you look at the talent, if you had 20 teams and you had 500 million people in that country or league's footprint to split between 20 teams, I mean, my God, that'd be incredible. That would be an insane amount of resources and talent that they would have between those 20 teams in this new Super League. I don't know what you would call it. That would be the interesting thing. Which name would it develop? And also, too, like I said a minute ago, it would instantly be a top five league, right? Instantly top five league. Right now, MLS has 30 teams. Liga MX has 18 teams, if I'm not mistaken. They would be 48 teams combined. They would probably dwindle it down to 20 teams. It'd probably be, I'd say, 12 Liga MX teams or MLS teams. I'm sorry, 12 MLS teams and probably 8 Liga MX teams. Now, which ones would they be? That's another topic for discussion. Maybe Pro Rel. I don't know how they would decide this, but they would probably take the 8 biggest brands from Liga MX and the 12 biggest brands from MLS and make this one league. And then the audience, obviously the revenue potential, which we'll get into in a little bit, but this would be something that would have huge payoff and potential if this were to happen. Okay, number 2, massive commercial power and global brands. Inter Miami, LAFC, Club America, Chivas, Tigres, Monterrey, all these clubs together in one league would be, I mean, the branding would be incredible. I don't even know what the potential payout would be TV wise for this, right? Obviously, MLS is on Apple TV right now. If they did this, they wouldn't be on Apple TV. They'd be on something else. They'd have probably multiple TV partners in this deal. But you got to also look at how big Liga MX is in the United States already. It's the most viewed league in the United States. It's ahead of the Premier League. So Liga MX is already the most supported league in the United States. So if MLS were able to merge with them, they would be able to capitalize on being the most popular league in their own country, which as of right now, I want to say they're third. They're behind Liga MX and they're behind the EPL. So this would help them with their branding and help them with their fan support significantly having teams like this. Plus, we would be able to see some crazy matchups and it would be entertaining to see all these big brands put together. The TV rights, I mean, MLS is getting paid $200 million annually right now. I don't know what Liga MX teams are making separately because I'm pretty sure all their deals are done by club, not as a league, but they would have to do something as a league if this happened to sell the rights together. I would assume that if they were together and they got all the biggest brands in Liga MX and all the biggest brands in MLS, that they would probably make somewhere between 500 to 600 million annually, which would be a huge step up from what MLS is making right now. I mean, it'd be 3 times more. Plus, you'd have less teams. So the TV rights would explode in value. Sponsorships in North America would explode, having the biggest brands in your one league together, the LAs, the Club Americas, the Inter Miamis, the Chivas, the New York City FCs, the Toronto FC, all those clubs together would be incredible, and the sponsorships would be absolutely pouring in. And also it could be a bigger global appeal because people would see a league that is higher quality, like we talked about earlier, would be fringe top 5, top 6 in the world. This could draw some more viewers from abroad, especially because of all the possible stars that would even come to this league now. There's obviously stars are coming to MLS now, and there's good players coming to Liga MX now. But if the league were even better, there would probably be even more stars coming to this league because there'd be more investment, there'd be more money to pour into this proposed league, right? So there's going to be bigger global appeal for broadcasters and fans. The dramatic increase in quality of play, like we talked about, top 5. I mean, there would be no bad matchups. I mean, if we're taking the top 12 teams in MLS and you're taking the top 8 teams in Liga MX and making one league, that is a great league from top to bottom. I would even go so far to say now that the top end is not going to be competing with the best clubs in the world, but if we're talking top to bottom, I mean that league is as good as any. That the only league that would be better is probably the Premier League. And I'm talking top to bottom. I'm not talking about the best teams. I'm talking about the talent disparity, like how good their worst team is to the best team. It would only be rivaled by the Premier League, in my opinion, because this would be a solid league. Every week would feel like an absolute winner take all contest where you don't know who's going to win because the matchups are so incredible, almost like an NFL feel, where every game matters and how it literally feels like every game anyone could win. And that's just going to make the quality of play so much better, and it's going to raise the standard across the board, which we want to see, right? And then obviously you're going to be competing with other top leagues. You're going to be getting more talent. You're going to shed the retirement league narrative. Easier to attract South American players and European talent to come to this new proposed league, and it will it'll be more prestigious than the CONCACAF Champions Cup, which we'll talk about that more is a negative. But they wouldn't even have a Champions Cup anymore, or they would potentially go to Copa Libertadores, which has been proposed. The winner, the top teams from this proposed league, would go to Copa Libertadores, which would be another positive. And I think that they would have a very good chance of winning that if this proposed league happened, because they would have the quality of play and the investment and resources would be so much more than what they are right now. And obviously the revenue sharing, exposure, strong competition, the accelerated development league wide would be improved. I just think across the board that would be something way better for MLS and Liga MX if they were to make this merger. Now let's talk about the cons, because obviously there are. I mean, it's not all sunshines and rainbows, right? So let's start off with the first thing. CONCACAF Champions Cup would become meaningless and probably would have ceased to exist. If there's one league, the tournament loses its purpose. Like, why would we need to see Liga MX and MLS teams going against each other when they're in one league together? This tournament right now is the only opportunity other than Leagues Cup, which I'm not going to even touch on because that's a whole separate issue. This is the tournament of this region. This is the most important trophy you can win in this region. It's not even close. Now, this has no meaning if they do this, and you have to have a strong Champions League. Now, we did mention the pros that you'd have the Copa Libertadores, but that's not a guarantee that's going to happen. And you would essentially be throwing away your own confederation, and you would have no Champions League in North America anymore. So that's a little sad, especially when you think about the other teams around the continent, like the Panamas, the Honduras, Jamaica, all those other teams, Costa Rica, all those teams in those countries that no longer have a place to play. That is sad, and it's bad for the region, I would say. No international club rivalry in the region anymore. It's just one league. That does suck a little bit. If it is nice to see these matchups more frequently, but then they kind of lose their pizzazz, their appeal of like, this is a big deal. We don't get to see this very often. So that is a downside to it. It just becomes kind of bland after a certain point because you see it so regularly. Some of the clubs get left behind, right? Smaller MLS markets, smaller League MX teams aren't going to be joining with this new Super League. Now, and I'd said this in the pros and cons, or the pros section, about how, there's going to be probably the 12 biggest MLS teams and the eight biggest Liga MX teams are going to join this new league. Maybe it's even the 14 biggest MLS teams and the six biggest Liga MX teams. I don't know how they would do it, but that's the point. How would you do it? Who would you decide goes? Is it all about branding? Is it all about market? Is it all about success? What is the determining factor on how you're going to select these teams? And there's going to be teams that are left behind because of this, right? Every team can't go. We can't have a league of 48 teams. Now you could, if there was promotion relegation, you could let them sort themselves out by who performs the best, and that could determine who's in the new league. But they're not going to do that. If they were to do this, they would pick the eight or six biggest Liga MX teams, and then the 12 to 14 biggest MLS teams. And they might even exceed 20 teams. That's just the number I threw out there, but they might even exceed the 20 teams. But the point being is there's going to be teams that get left behind, like Montreal, Sporting Kansas City, Colorado Rapid, Mazatlan, obviously in Liga MX, and a couple other. Probably Tijuana is going to get left behind. There's teams that will not make the jump to this new league, and that's, you kind of wonder, where do they go? So that's obviously one of the downsides, and then those teams, wherever they do go, there's just going to be a gap between them and the new league, and they're probably going to not cease to exist, but they're going to become irrelevant. Only one major league in North America is also another red flag or a con, is because it just feels like a monopoly. Like there's not any other league that's competing with each other. It's just one league. And I do think that there's also a point to be made that it could grow stale if they're not in Copa Libertadores, and if they were to merge, who are they competing with? What's the regional trophy? Is it just the league trophy? So that's a little underwhelming, and it hurts the diversity of competitions. Yeah, I mentioned earlier about the teams in Panama, the teams in Honduras, the teams in Costa Rica, the teams in Jamaica or Haiti. What are they competing in? How are they getting their chance to grow or to showcase their abilities? Because some of those teams do have some crazy upsets in the Champions Cup, and they'll no longer have that opportunity to do that. And I do think it can also hurt the development in those regions as well. It could also hurt the domestic identity for both leagues, because it's kind of like ditching the history of Liga MX. You're ditching the short history of MLS, and you're kind of combining this league, and you don't really know. It's completely new. Like you're kind of you're ditching your identity. Like, what would the league even be called? I said that earlier. What would this league be called? Hopefully not NASL, right? So that's another thing too, is you're just kind of ditching your brands, at least as a league. So that's a little frustrating. It would be something that would make this a con. Also, travel logistics, right? Like Vancouver to Mexico City is an insane distance. Like, it's like 4,200 miles. There would be some travel barriers, or some travel inconveniences with certain clubs going from North America, go from the United States or Canada to Mexico. It's not like it's regional; it's super close. That would be something that would be difficult. Now, I don't know if Vancouver would be in this proposed league, but they could be. Seattle probably would be, and that would just as equally as far. That would be difficult for teams to do that type of travel. We've seen in Leagues Cup that it was brutal for some of these teams, and vice versa. It's not good either way. It wouldn't be good for Vancouver to go to Mexico City either, for that travel. So that would be something they would also have to think about. And then obviously the midweek games would be brutal. Player fatigue issues. I mean, the depth would have to be nuts in this new league. So that's something to think about. And also, it sets a global precedent that could change soccer forever, right? This is another big thing. If this were to happen and Liga MX and MLS were to merge, what's to stop the European Super League from happening for the Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United, Chelsea, Barcelona, Madrid, Juve, AC Milan, etc., PSG? What's to stop that from happening? If they do this, then those teams are going to go to FIFA and say, well, look, hey, they just merged an entire continent, essentially. The biggest leagues in this continent merged to be one league. Why can't we do that? If they can do it, that's the precedent. Why can't we do this? So that's a huge con for me, because as a global soccer fan, I don't want to see a super league in Europe. I don't want to see these teams that, not to pick on like Leicester City or, Mallorca or Real Zaragoza, just these teams. I want to see these teams have a chance to win their league. I don't want to see them be casted aside for this super league. and just not be able to play meaningful ball and try to take down the Giants. That's what makes football so special and soccer so special. I don't want to see that. I like the fact that there could be these sleeping giants or these dark horse teams like Leicester City winning in 2015 and 2016, or Girona finishing top four in the Liga and making it to the Champions League a year or two ago. I like seeing stuff like that. That makes it special. So that would set a bad precedent, in my opinion, for the cons. Now, let's get into what I think. Do I want this to happen? And I made the pros and cons of both, good and bad of why this should and shouldn't happen. I personally do not want this to happen. I think that it makes the league stronger if they are separate and competing in the region, especially CONCACAF, or if they join Copa Libertadores. And I'm also a big tradition guy. I don't want to throw away Liga MX. I don't want to throw away MLS. I like the history of both leagues and I want to preserve it. And I feel like if they do this, it's going to ruin all of that, right? So I am firmly against this move. I think it would be bad for the region. I think it would be bad for soccer. And also it would be, what about the fans? Like I mentioned earlier, the teams that aren't in big areas or at the biggest clubs, they just get thrown away. Like I don't want that to happen. I want them all to be in their own league. And if they did a pro rel with this, maybe I would come around to it where they would have a chance to move up to the first division. But until then, I'm completely out on it. I don't think it would be a good idea. And I think that it would take away the specialty of the rivalry. And also, it wouldn't help I don't think it would help soccer grow as much as maybe people think it would, at least in the short term. I don't think it would. And also, like I said about the World Soccer, that's a big deal to me because if that happens, it's all over. So, and we really don't want that to happen. So, I'm curious what you guys think. Do you want MLS and Liga MX to merge? Do you think it will ever happen? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.